Six the Musical offers a modern retelling of the stories of Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Katherine Howard and Catherine Parr, the six wives of King Henry VIII. The show is presented in the form of a pop concert where the queens are a pop band and are planning to select their lead singer based on who had the worst experience with Henry. During the show, they each sing a song retelling their story. Six premiered on the West End in 2019 and quickly grew to become one of the most beloved musicals of our generation. Writers Toby Marlow and Lucy Moss had a difficult job making a story of 16th century aristocracy relatable to a modern audience. But a way they achieved this was by modelling each queen after a familiar and beloved pop music icon. It's pretty common knowledge among Six fans that Catherine of Aragon is an amalgamation of Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez. Anne Boleyn is inspired by Avril, Lavigne and Lily Allen. Jane Seymour is Adele and Celine Dion. Anne of Cleves is Nicki Minaj and Rihanna. Katherine Howard, Britney Spears and Ariana Grande. And Catherine Parr is Alicia Keys and Emily Sandé. But how did Marlow and Moss make reference to these pop stars during the show? How did the music, the lyrics and the mise-en-scène contribute? In today's video, I'm going to go through each of the six queens and tell you more about their pop star influences and where you can see them in the show. I'm going to make regular references to the musical elements. When analysing music, it's helpful to explore how these 8 elements work independently and together.
My name's Catherine of Aragon.
Catherine of Aragon is modelled after a mixture of Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez, and her song, No Way, pays homage to these artists through many musical elements. Let's start with rhythm, because that's where multiple of Aragon's influences are referenced. In No Way, we hear this snare drum that has a marching band feel and is reminiscent of the snare drum we hear in Beyoncé's Run the World. In both examples, this drum rhythm interacts with other elements in similar ways. Both vocal melodies are mainly straight, so the accompaniment of syncopated drum beats adds a nice energy to both songs. It was smart of Moss and Marlow to extract this particular element from Beyoncé's works, because it fits the context of Aragon's story too. This drum beat is militaristic and makes you think of marching percussion. Parades with marching drummers are heavily associated with English royalty, so it was a clever reference back to Aragon's status as a queen too. When listening to that rhythm, you may have heard a Latin influence too, and this is where we bring in the J-Lo references. Whilst Aragon had Spanish roots and J-Lo had Puerto Rican roots, Latin music as a whole does encapsulate both Latin American countries and Spain and Portugal. Latin genres originate some of the best drum beats and rhythms in modern music, including the ones on the screen. Also on the topic of Latin influence, let's talk about timbre. This song uses brass instruments, which are a regular feature in Latin music. The use of brass instruments in Latin music dates back to colonial times. European brass instruments were brought to Latin America by Spanish and Portuguese colonizers, and these instruments were incorporated into local music, blending with indigenous and African rhythms and melodies. Over time, this fusion gave rise to various Latin genres, such as salsa, merengue, and cumbia. Looking at harmony, this song follows a 4-chord progression, a technique that is common in pop music and is used by both artists Aragon is modelled by. Let's also have a look at the harmony the other 5 queens contribute to this song. During the choruses, they sing in thirds for the no way motifs. Many of J-Lo's songs use thirds for harmony, for example, My Love Don't Cost a Thing and On the Floor. Of all the artists Aragon is modelled from, I think the melodies in No Way are most inspired by Beyoncé. Beyoncé is a virtuoso, and lots of her songs have incredibly difficult riffs, often at a rather high pitch, and No Way has this too. The last chorus of the song instructs the singer to ad-lib, with the expectation being we will hear some Beyoncé-esque high notes and fast runs. The final element I will touch on in regard to this song is texture. I love the texture in this song so much because it is so varied. We have awesome moments of monophony where Aragon is singing unaccompanied for a few beats, and then we get these chunky chords giving us a lovely homophonic texture.
You must agree, the baby, and all the time I've been by your side. I've never lost control, no matter how many times I knew you lied.
And we even get some variation in the bridge where we get this stripped down section with some lovely broken chords.
You got me down on my knees, please tell me what you think I've done wrong.
A broken chord is a chord in which you hear the notes played in succession, rather than a block chord, which is what we hear most often when the notes are played simultaneously. This section is reminiscent to me of If I Were a Boy, which also uses broken chords in a similar way during the stripped down section.
If I were a boy, even just for a day.
I'll also briefly touch on lyrics, because they are stylised from the muddled artists too. The way Aragon's lyrics talk directly to Henry are reminiscent to the lyrics in Beyoncé's song Don't Hurt Yourself. In both songs, the singer is addressing a cheating husband and referring to them regularly as baby in an ironic way. The Queen's costumes also nod to their influences. Starting with colour, Aragon wears gold, which is a colour heavily associated with Beyoncé. Even her headpiece feels inspired, as it's reminiscent of Beyoncé's gold crown headpiece.
I'm Anne Boleyn, girl, and I'm up next.
Anne Boleyn was based upon mischievous female artists, such as Avril Lavigne and Lily Allen. Don't Lose Your Head is interesting, because for most of the song, there's a clear distinction between Avril-inspired material and Lily-inspired material. The verses are all Avril, and the choruses are all Lily. Let me explain. The verses have a thin yet powerful texture. The guitar plays a chord on the first beat of each phrase, then is silent for the remainder.
Grew up in the French court, wee bonds, your life was a chore, so
She set sail.
Well, 1522 came straight to the UK, all the British dudes lame.
Epic fail.
Those chords the guitar plays are power chords rather than a typical major or minor chord. A power chord plays just the root and the fifth. So for this song, the first chord is an F5, so we hear just an F and a C. There isn't a third in this chord, therefore it's not an F major or an F minor. Because of this, there is ambiguity, which works really well for this narrative. This technique is regularly used by Avril Lavigne too. The verse for her hit Skater Boy uses power chords also. But what is the effect of power chords? As the name might suggest, they provide a powerful and stark sound. They also sound great with distortion, as we can hear in both the 6-track and Avril Lavigne's tracks. The mood and style in which the melody is delivered in the verse is also reminiscent of Avril Lavigne. The singer is laid back and delivering a story without vocal decoration. We don't hear vibrato or any other techniques to prettify the melody, almost like Boleyn is too cool to bother with showy decoration. Let's move on to the chorus, which is inspired by Lily Allen. Lily is known for an eclectic sound, utilising samples and mixing genres and ideas. For example, one of her most famous songs, Smile, fuses pop and reggae styles and features a piano sample from Free Soul by the Soul Brothers. Lily's style is modelled in the chorus as we find ourselves no longer with an electric guitar accompaniment, but with pizzicato orchestral strings and a light hi-hat, immersing two styles.
Sorry, not sorry about what I said, I'm just trying to have some fun.
The lyrics themselves feel like they could be a Lily Allen track. The I don't care attitude we hear in a lot of Lily's songs, and even the LOL lyrics themselves appear in Lily's track Jesus. There's British slang in the track too, which is definitely reminiscent of Lily Allen. For example, the lyrics, "Don't be bitter, 'cause I'm fitter," and "Mate, shut up." Whilst actresses who play Boleyn are encouraged to use their own regional accent for the song, when you read the lyrics, you definitely read them in a London accent, a la Lily Allen. The chord progression is another 4-chord progression, and is not too different to some of Lily's own. What I really like in this song is the way those two styles, Avril and Lily, come together for the last chorus. We keep the same sorry not sorry melody, but this time with Avril's rock instrumentation.
Sorry, not sorry about what I said, I'm just trying to have some fun.
The narrative purpose of this works well too. The verses are when Boleyn is telling her story, and the chorus is her sharing the mantra she lives by whilst these events are occurring. And in that final chorus, that mantra becomes part of the narrative, so naturally they fuse to form this upbeat, enjoyable ending. Let's finish by taking a look at Boleyn's costume. It features these punky checks, which are often worn by Avril Lavigne. And there are also these wrist covers. I don't know what to call them. They're too big to be bracelets. But anyway, whatever they're called, they are quite popular in punk fashion, so they make sense with Boleyn's inspirations.
Jane Seymour, the only one he truly loved.
Jane Seymour is based on Adele and Celine Dion, who are known best for their ballads. Heart of Stone, sung by Seymour, is the only ballad in the whole show. It's reminiscent particularly of a Celine Dion power ballad in the way it grows bigger, louder, and more fervent on the way to the impassioned finale. The instrumentation is very typical of these artists. It starts with Jane accompanied only by a piano.
Got a good heart, but I know it changes. A restless tide, untamable.
As the song progresses, we are joined by orchestral strings, and eventually the other queens join in too as a chorus of singers. The song uses potentially the most common chord progression in pop music, 1, 5, 6, 4. This progression also features in many of Adele's most well-known choruses, including Hello and Someone Like You. Celine Dion also uses this progression in My Heart Will Go On. The song also features sus chords that resolve into the tonic chord. Here's an example. This is a harmonic technique that features in Adele songs regularly too, such as in Easy On Me. The climax of this song features a key change. We go from F major up one tone to G major. Celine Dion is well known for her modulation in the last chorus of her power ballads, and this example actually reminds me of the key change in her song All By Myself. For the All By Myself key change, whilst we're still in the original key of A major, Celine sustains this high F, and underneath her the accompaniment modulates to D flat major. Whilst still in the original key of F major, Seymour sustains this D, and then the accompaniment comes back in under her, now in the key of G major. This is an example of common tone modulation. That D features in both F major and G major, and is what bridges us between the old key and the new key. That climax also reminds me of Celine Dion's climax in Because You Loved Me, with Celine, or in this case Seymour, riffing over a chorus of singers performing the melody. Costume-wise, Seymour's dress feels very inspired by Adele's colour palette and silhouette preferences. The blonde hair and voluminous half-updo that actresses are typically styled with also feels Adele-inspired too. We're halfway there now, so if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content.
Ich bin Anna of Cleves. Ja.
The character of Anna of Cleves includes elements of Nicki Minaj and Rihanna, and we see this within her song Get Down. Something Cleves does in her song, which Nicki loves to do, is sample or reference other songs for a line or two. Think the Twinkle Twinkle interlude during Starships.
But check who you want, or check who you like. Dance all night, there's no end in sight. Now everybody let me
In Get Down, Cleves samples the nursery rhyme King of the Castle, which I think is a direct influence of Nicki. Many rappers use braggadocio in their work. This is basically where they boast and talk about themselves with great pride, often about their fame, their wealth, or their access to members of the gender they're attracted to. Nicki does this in her raps, and as a result, as does Cleves. And something else both Nicki, Cleves, and many rappers do in their songs is make intertextual references to lyrics by other rappers, either through quotation or pastiche. In Get Down, Cleves quotes the song Gold Digger.
No, I'm not saying that I'm a gold digger, but check my prenup and go figure.
An element in the song that is reminiscent of Rihanna to me is the use of clapping. A number of Rihanna's songs have clapping on every single beat during the chorus, as opposed to what we typically hear when choruses have claps, which is the clapping on just beats 2 and 4. We hear this also in Get Down.
You said that I tricked ya.
Also on the topic of timbre, in the studio recording there's a lot of vocal mixing techniques used which we hear in both Nicki and Rihanna tracks, including distortion and pitch shift. I've never seen the show, but I imagine this can't be recreated on stage, but it's just interesting to hear in the studio recording at least. Let's wrap up with costuming. Cleves wears a red crop top and short set, which might be a reference to Rihanna, who has previously worn this style. The colour red may also be a nod to Rihanna and her iconic red hair, or any of the amazing red outfits she's worn during her career.
Howard is here and the fun's began.
Katherine Howard is a blend of young, sexualised pop stars and includes elements of Britney Spears and Ariana Grande. Howard being modelled on Britney and Ariana was so perfect. These stars started their careers as young girls and were sexualised from an early age. Howard was also sexualised from an early age and even discusses this in her song All You Wanna Do.
She was 23 and I was 13, going on 30.
Basing Howard on Britney and Ariana was such a great way to make her experience relatable to a 2020s audience. It's only really in recent history that overall perception of Howard has moved from her just being a slutty adulterer to actually the fact that she was just a young girl and a victim. By making us equate Howard's story to the disgusting way Britney was controlled and sexualised when she was as young as 13, we the audience can empathise more. The harmony in this song uses one of my favourite pop chord progressions. It's one that's unusual for pop music, but just happens to have been used by Britney on multiple occasions. It's a progression that slides from the major third to the second, then the flat second, and finally the tonic chord. That chromaticism is so cool, and interestingly, Britney uses it on two of her most well-known songs about toxic men, Womanizer and Toxic. And you guessed it, it is also used in All You Wanna Do. I think it's a symbolic choice as well. Immediately the progression jumps to its highest chord, and then it's just descent followed by descent for the rest. In all the stories Howard shares in her song, she gets a quick high from the man in question, but then it turns bad, then worse, then worse. Timbre-wise, the song definitely gives off bubblegum pop vibes, with the synth chords and the dampened drum loop, but there's also use of strings too. There's both bowed and pizzicato strings, and I particularly love the use of the latter, especially over the line, "He plucked my strings," because we love a bit of musical word painting. Strings also feature often in Britney's music, so this may have been another reference to her. Another Britney reference is seen in the melody. The chorus has these large leaps in pitch, which are reminiscent to me of the choruses in If You CK Me. The Ariana Grande influence is also made clear in the melody. Particularly towards the end of the song, there's an expectation for the singer to perform riffs and high notes that are reminiscent of the ad-libs Ariana regularly has during the final choruses in her songs. Taking a look at Howard's costume, this is probably the most direct reference to the inspirations. First, Howard always has this high ponytail, which is styled after Ariana Grande. Also styled after Ariana Grande is the hot pants with the skirt flaps, a la Sweetener Tour era. The purple colour, I believe, is taken from Britney, especially her 2003 AMA's outfit. And perhaps this is where we see the long sleeves come in too.
The survivor, Catherine Parr.
5 down, she's the final wife. Catherine Parr. Parr is modelled on Alicia Keys and Emily Sandé. From the very first bar of this song, I Don't Need Your Love, you get that immediate R&B and soul feeling akin to those artists. We start with this lovely B-flat major 7th chord.
You know I love you, boy.
This stands out because we're used to hearing regular 7 chords from the other Queen's accompaniments. Major 7ths appear frequently in jazz and subsequently also in R&B and soul styles too. But what's the difference and how do they sound? A B-flat 7 chord, which is what we're used to hearing from the other Queens, consists of a B-flat triad plus a note forming an interval of a 7th above the chord's root. But that's not what's in this song. This song has a B-flat major 7th, the difference being that 7th note is raised a semitone to an A natural. But what is the effect of having lots of major 7 chords in this song? Well, major 7 chords have quite a unique sound, some would describe as an open sound. Despite the word major being in the name major 7 chord, they don't necessarily feel happy like you'd expect, because it actually has more minor intervals in it than major. If we have a look at that B flat major 7 and then remove the B flat, we are left with a D minor chord, for example. And that slight ambiguity regarding mood is soulful and works well for this song. Alicia Keys also loves a major 7, and like Parr, begins quite a few of her songs with a major 7 chord. For example, If I Ain't Got You.
Some people live for the fortune.
Moving on to the instrumentation, we have this lovely jazzy organ accompanying Parr with those chords. We later get what sounds like a drum hi-hat using brushes rather than sticks. Drum brushes are conventional in jazz, and subsequently many styles that developed from it, including the R&B style this song is in. What I love about this song is at the end, when the rest of the queens find themselves agreeing with Parr's sentiments and begin singing with her, you can hear elements of their musical characterisation too. A marching style drum beat comes in, which reminds us of Aragon. The harmonies feel quite Howard inspired. The bass line feels like Cleves, and the random whoops and haze thrown in are reminiscent of Boleyn. We'll end again by taking a look at the costuming, and it's noteworthy that Parr is the only queen who wears trousers. Alicia Keys commonly wears trousers, and often tops with voluminous sleeves. She's also been seen wearing stripes on numerous occasions. Emily Sandé is also known for her more androgynous and even sometimes masculine styling, which could be a reason for this costume choice too. 6 is a musical I was a bit late arriving at. I only really took the time to listen to it this year, and honestly, I've fallen in love with it. I think Moss and Marlowe were so clever in the direction they took, both with the narrative and the way they utilise pop culture to make the story more relevant and exciting to people. I'm sure there's plenty of Beyoncé fans and Ariana fans and Nicki fans who heard that their fave inspired a character in the musical and decided to go and watch it for that reason. That does conclude today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's anything I missed or any particular references to these artists in the show that you want to highlight, let me know in the comments. Bye!